Let's get started with sound manipulation. Another common and extremely popular ability that literally allows you to control the vector of communication, users of Acoustokinesis can create, shape, and manipulate sound. Obviously, there are dozens of Latin terms that refer to sound, and if you know them all, that's good for you, because I don't. So, because of my inadequacies, we'll go with the previously mentioned. Now, we all know what sound is, unless you're deaf. So for those who aren't, or just like hearing me repeat the same bit in every video, a sound, in its simplest of terms, is a series of vibrations that travel through the air or another medium and can be heard when they reach a person's or animal's ear. Slow down, sound. If they're really adept at using them, they can use the sound as an enhancing physical force or for high-speed movement. At lower frequencies, sound can be potentially fatal to living beings by causing internal damage, while high frequencies cannot be heard by normal humans and have to be used for sonar-like effects. In essence, sound is an invisible, deadly weapon and a very versatile tool. Simple as simple can be. Everyone except those with their respective disabilities knows or understands what the concept of a sound is. The disturbance of a medium, something like air, ground, water, etc., which usually radiates outward in the form of something called a pressure wave. And whatever effects these waves have upon the ears is perceived as sound. But from the point of view of physics, sound is considered to be the waves of vibratory motion themselves, whether or not they're heard by the sensory inclined. Which brings up a pretty good point. If a Shay asks you to hit that like and subscribe button, but no one's around to hear him, did he actually ask you to hit that like and subscribe button? Well, the answer is obviously yes. There's no need to try and play me, because regardless of whether you can hear it or not, some sound-based psycho is going to try to serenade you by getting you to sell your soul for sound-based superpowers. Maybe. Possibly. I can't guarantee the safety of your eardrums, but what I can guarantee you is that if you do hit that like and subscribe button, you'll have a better chance of understanding what's been spat out than you would have if you hadn't. Remember, sound waves for all intents or purposes are invisible, so if you want to survive, it's better that you hit that like and subscribe button. But if you don't need no help, then hitting that share button might help you. I can't know for sure. I'm not really psychic. I wish I was. If you're just here for the applications, uses, and users for this power, then skip ahead to this time. But if you got your own inbuilt sonar, then screw you to... that was a joke. Just please keep watching, please. The origins of sound can be conflated with many different things, and just like the more simpler concepts I've done in the past, this concept will be easy to provide background to because sound is everywhere. Even in the stories of myth and legends, the concept of sound is so extensive that multiple deities within the same pantheon usually share a version of this concept. Greek mythology gives us Echo, a nymph who resided on Mount Cytherian, who upon being cursed by Hera was only able to speak the last words spoken to her. That's obviously one of the explanations for where an echo comes from. In addition to her, the god Homedos was the personification of battle noise, the shouts and cries of men and the clashing of weapons on the battlefield, I would assume. And as you guys know, the ancient world was a very violent place. But getting away from the fantastical, looking at sound in a more grounded manner still gives us plenty of information to draw from. As stated earlier, sound is caused by movement, aka vibrations, which explains in modern times why we have a field of science referred to as acoustics, which is the interdisciplinary science that deals with the study of mechanical waves in gases, liquids, and solids, which includes vibrations, regular sound, ultrasound, and infrasound. With the most popular type of sound, I guess, is that of a melodic background, aka music. But it doesn't stop there. The applications of acoustics can be found in almost all aspects of modern society, including but not limited to the medical field, various industrial fields that make up the backbone of any given society. Heck, I'll even say it. Horology, which is the study of time, aka watches and clocks. Because this power is so similar to vibrations, I'm going to try to stick to the purely sound-based aspects and cover as much as I can without spilling too much crap about vibrations. That'll come in another video. So with all that being said, let's get the factual mumbo-jumbo out the way. Let's just go ahead and get this out of here. The mechanical vibrations that can be classified and interpreted as sound can travel through all forms of matter, gases, liquids, solids, and plasmas. And the matter that supports the sound is called the medium. And just like you learned in school, I hope, sound and or vibrations travel way faster through solids than through liquids and gases because the molecules of a solid are closer together. Therefore, it can transmit the vibrations, aka the energy, faster. But when sound is moving through a medium that does not have consistent physical properties, it may be refracted or redirected by either absorption or dispersal. And to continue from that point, it would make sense that sound cannot travel through a vacuum, aka a space with no matter in between. So like stated numerous times at the beginning of this video, sound is a type of energy made by vibrations. And these vibrations of what we call sound conduct and qualify said sound waves as mechanical waves, which are just waves that are an oscillation of matter, aka causing matter to move back and forth around a central point. These mechanical waves, better known to us now as sound waves, are often simplified and characterized by their frequency or wavelength, their amplitude, meaning its pressure or intensity, its speed, which can vary depending on the medium as it travels through, but it has an upper limit that's been recorded around 36 kilometers per second, or 22 miles per second if you're a Westerner like me. And lastly, its direction, aka who you're aiming at. All that information we've accumulated over the years has told us that sound is perceptible by humans at frequencies from about 20 hertz to about 20,000 hertz, with that upper limit decreasing as we age. Meanwhile, ultrasounds are sound waves with frequencies higher than 20,000 hertz. Funny thing about that, ultrasound is not that different from audible sound in its physical properties. It just can't be heard by humans and is mainly used for detecting weaknesses or flaws, aka medical technology, sonar mapping, various other stuff like that. While infrasound are sound waves with frequencies lower than 20 hertz, even though sounds of such a low frequencies are way too low for humans to hear, whales, elephants, and other animals can detect infrasound and use it to communicate. So, symbolically, sound, in its simplest of terms, represents a transfer of information. But getting back into sound as a superpower, popular culture has shown users being able to shatter glass, break rocks, and topple buildings because it's more or less implied that characters who have super powerful screams or other sound-based superpowers can usually do things like scream out sonic booms, mimic voices, and screech so loud that it can paralyze people by making their eyes or eardrums bleed. That last one's probably a little bit closer to reality. As in order to perform the other feats mentioned earlier, the sound-based person will have to match the exact frequency of the tone of that glass, rock, or building that, the sound that it makes when it's initially struck or tapped by something. And then create a destructive resonance by holding that chosen note long enough to be able to destroy anything with sound. Obviously, this means that the user must have a form of enhanced strength in order to create shockwaves of sound via air pressure. So suffice to say, this isn't a feat that many people can pull off, even with powers. And as an added bonus, since sound vibrations can travel through the air, ground, water, and any other form of medium, 1. This gives the user a form of enhanced senses through sensory output or sensory detection, because sound creates information, obviously. And 2, defense by using physical barriers is extremely difficult because vibrations can also affect things at a molecular level. Something else noteworthy about this power is that in real life or a medium with any kind of real-world realism, any version of this ability would be extremely cool and pretty awesome to have, but extremely impractical and not really useful, seeing as a sonic boom would practically level everything in a spherical radius from the sound user, including themselves. Plus, this will require the user to possess unusually high levels of required secondary superpowers, most importantly super resilient eardrums and a respiratory tract. And oftentimes, that aspect of this ability gets ignored. An occasional variation of this power has entirely normal people being able to use their voices or an audio feedback as a weapon against a bad guy or a monster who has loud noises as a weakness or something along those lines. This is often used to subvert the numerous examples of the helpless screaming woman or crying baby or crying child. Occasionally, characters with this ability will also have the compelling voice ability. Or the inverse, the character could encounter a being, environment, or situation that possesses the properties of a brown note, which in its simplest form is something that the target is not supposed to hear. Also, it'll cause horrible, unknowable side effects. This is based off another concept in popular culture known as the brown note, which is a fictional or hypothetical infrasonic frequency capable of causing fecal incontinence by creating an acoustic resonance within the human bowel. Yeah, nasty crap. You basically hear something and you want to go use the bathroom. But anyway, common stats for this extremely popular and widely used ability are medium to high levels of attack power, medium to high levels of speed. This aspect is normally accompanied by a sonic boom, as it's fairly common for a noise person to break the sound barrier with this ability. And medium to low levels of defense, because this is arguably an extremely offensive power, but that's up to you and it depends on how you want to portray it. As far as I could find, or at least do with an extensive internet search, there aren't any common colors associated with sound, or at least in the sense of the other powers I've done. There does exist a concept called chromesthesia, or sound to color synthesis, which is a type of synthesis in which sound involuntarily evokes an experience of color, shape, and in some cases movement, or memories, who knows. That aspect can give this ability a more intricate and psychological theme. So take a look at that if you're curious about that aspect of this power. But the power itself, though, is normally displayed in popular culture as rippling waves of invisible energy, or something mimicking a sonar, some kind of pulse-like emission. No matter how you choose to portray it, unless for a plot-relevant reason, this ability will normally have a wide range of effect, but there are more examples of more pinpoint, accurate, concentrated portrayals of sonic burst or blast, but they'll follow the other members of their family and dissipate outward from that initial point. I mean, all that energy has to go somewhere. Characters with this ability will be energetic, loud, and usually impulsive. Oftentimes, they'll have a profession as a singer or a performer. Or on the lighter side of the scale, they might be a jester or a bard archetype, from Dungeons and Dragons. And on the heavier side, they'll use the more complex concepts associated with this power, like being a doctor who uses sound waves like a living sonogram, or a creature of legend that can blow eardrums if you get too close to them, or make them mad. Now, because this ability shares so many similarities with others, such as vibration manipulation and or music manipulation, I'm going to try my best to get as close as I can without giving away too much, because those two powers are definitely going to be videos of their own. But let's continue. Now, with the power to manipulate sound comes the natural ability to attack with, defend with, and control sound with sound attacks. And since the most popular way this ability is shown is via the vocals of an individual, the user is freely capable of manipulating their voice to various effects with voice manipulation. With that ability, they can channel the innate power their voice possesses outward with voice projection. And since you're projecting sound through your voice, why don't you use that in order to gain information about the environment by having sound bounce off of surfaces with echolocation. And since you can project your voice, if you take that step a bit further, you can emit an enhanced scream of a high amplitude that can take the form of a wide-reaching stream or destructive wave of sonic energy, with effects ranging from destabilization to destruction with sonic scream. From there, all it would take is to focus all that ever-expanding sound-based energy into a condensed point with sound concentration. And since you can focus it in a non-harmful manner, this should allow you to manipulate outside targets in a push or pull manner via sonotelekinesis. The next step up from control is a more intimate connection with the concept. Sound wave perception allows the user to visually perceive sound waves, and since you can perceive how sound moves, it would make sense that, a little sense, that you should be able to create your own source of sound completely separate from outside sources in an arguably more powerful manner with sound wave generation. And before we move on, just an FYI, the number one effect of sound-based attacks are paralysis. This obviously ranges from your target wincing in pain for an instant all the way to the sound shutting down your body due to the pressure via paralysis inducement. And if you want sound to do more than just make ears bleed, then give your sound a form of mass and density with sound solidification. This application will then allow you to create shapes out of the newly solidified sound, both simple and complex, via sonokinetic constructs. And since the user can harden and build forms out of sound, it would make sense that they can store and accumulate sound from any source, even themselves, and then use that sound-based energy for anything via sound accumulation. But what do you think will happen to all that sound you collected if you don't have a way to store it safely? Well, if what I said earlier in the video holds any weight, that sound is ever expanding and really can't be contained, then with sound containment, you should be able to trap sound in whatever metaphysical container you possess, which essentially doubles as a form of sound nullification. This can open the door for other sub-abilities like inaudibility, not being able to be heard, muting, taking the ability to speak from others, and if you're really proficient enough, you can use the previously mentioned to no-sell anyone who tries to use sound-based abilities against you with sound immunity. Well, since you're immune to outside sound-based effects and can generate your own source of super enhanced noise, higher tier users can stretch that ability and take in outside sources of sound with sound absorption. And since you're absorbing random sound waves and crap, it would make sense that it would have an effect on your body, and if you're lucky, a positive one, with sound empowerment. And with that give and take relationship, it's time to do a little bit of giving, aka giving existing forms of sound a massive boost in power with sound amplification. At this point, I would say you're pretty familiar with sound, don't you guys think? Well, if you think so, then use that familiarity and ask sound for a favor by helping you recover vitality with sonic healing. And since you're using sound to rebuild yourself, why shouldn't it reflect in the life energy that you produce naturally with sound aura? And if your life force is mimicking the properties of sound, then you should be able to do the same with your physical form, because that's where your life energy is coming from, by transforming it into sound waves via sound mimicry. While the best of the best, those that have mastered this ability to its fullest, can infuse sound into whatever combative capabilities they possess with sonokinetic combat. But if they want to accomplish the same thing, but sow the fear of God into whomever they're facing, then all they have to do is match the sound frequency that the target is emitting, and then create a countersonic wave that disrupts the target's defense to you in any way, shape, or form, because you're essentially mimicking their sound of life. This allows your attacks to work like a Pokemon game and be especially effective against them with transonic resonance. And if you don't want to actually fight at all, then just use your sound detection mentioned way back in order to find the vibrations, aka rhythm, aka pulse, aka life, aka as in their ability to exist, then curse them with a variety of effects that can make them drop dead from bodily issues, all the way to turning them into mush or straight up eliminating them from existence with counter sonics. This scream, which can also roll over into shockwave generation if your massive amounts of sound is moving the air pressure as well. But if you aren't much of a fighter, or you just feel like wearing your opponent out by playing keep away with your face, then before they can lay a hand on you, propel yourself through the air via sound waves with sonokinetic flight. But what if bugs in your teeth or in your hair isn't the look you want to go for? Well, then cut the travel time and the danger of flying pests out by shifting your physical form from one location to another via sound without occupying any of the space in between it via sonic teleportation. Now, this can be done in one or two ways: by merging with existing sound waves and hitching a ride on their impossible speeds to a target location, which at close to mid-range is like near instantaneous, via sonic acceleration, or they can warp sound waves and create a portal out of pure sound that links two separate locations via sound portal creation. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, with all those abilities in your back pocket making you all but godlike, why don't you actually cross that threshold of divinity and employ a type of sonic so potent that they're capable of affecting anything, including things that would normally absorb, nullify, or be protected from sound waves. Anyone with this ability could have sound waves that exist within voids, extend outward into the infinite universe, and break molecules apart on a molecular level and put them back together into new forms, or be so potent that it can ignore our reality and break through dimensional barriers with ultimate sonics. And there you have it, sound manipulation in a nutshell. Now, unfortunately, I'm sad to say that not all of these are the applications that are available for this particular power. Not because I got lazy, and I am pretty much a lazy, but because of the actual lack of examples that I could use. So I'd rather not tease you guys and put up a comic book page or some kind of image that can be construed in many different ways. I'll have to come up with something in order to illustrate the various other techniques that this power possesses. But besides that, this is still an extremely powerful ability under the right conditions. And that number one condition is a medium, any medium. But for any low to mid-tier user, as long as you stay put on a planet with an atmosphere or solidity of some kind, you can run around basically unchecked with this power. Although the propagation of sound waves can be disrupted by wind, so users of air or void manipulation are probably natural enemies for a user of this power. Remember, in space, no one can hear Shay scream. You might also be unable to create sound, only manipulated from outside sources, which would really suck because I'm creating sound right now and I don't even have power. So if you can't do this, then you need to find another line of work. I'm just saying, don't want to hurt your feelings. And now, with all that out of the way, it's time to place this ability on the scale. Sound manipulation is pretty dang useful considering how our existence pretty much depends on it. So no more extra filler. On a scale of 1 to 10, the Shay scaling system gives this power a screeching 8. Only because it relies on the existence of other mediums in order for it to exist in the first place, and its original form, aka vibrations, can be considered more powerful, or a more pure form of this power. Thanks for watching. If you guys think of any more applications for this power, jot it down in the comment section. If you want to see the entire unedited video with all the clips and examples that can't be shown on YouTube, as well as future videos, then head on over to my Patreon and join up. Like I said earlier, I'll be putting up at least one video every week, so expect consistent uploads from this channel. So, until then, nerd and nerdettes, I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.